Sorry, which one is mic 8?
The wireless mic that's on the pulpit right there. It's just the handheld one.
Okay.
There you go. Just turn it on.
Testing? Oh yeah, it works good. Let's see. How far away can I hold it from? Not very far.
That's good.
Gotta be pretty close. Okay.
Thank you. And yeah, you can hear we're picking up on the Congregational mic, so.
This is gonna roll off if I put it here.
And,
Alright.
okay, so.
Yeah, Jenny yelled at me for putting the cover on that switch. You couldn't figure out how to use the mic.
Yeah. So this is, so if I want to listen to the mix that's just going
with Jerry Old. Yeah, how was he doing there?
Pretty good. I played golf with him a little bit in the summer.
I did. Well, yeah, when Marvin Luther and I, we used to see him a lot. And,
Yeah,
now we don't. Kind of wonder about
I
that.
know when he's around in the summer, he goes to the court on Sunday.
Yeah.
I want to say 3 o'clock or
Okay.
whatever time.
I had a design review this morning, so I'm,
I know his kids are
here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I know they were very close.
I talked to him a couple of weeks ago. He was doing all right. And
A couple years ago, I thought he had some kind of surgery. Maybe having a little prostate.
how's Annie been doing?
Oh, she's good. She's, I got her.
Oh,
Fire
yes,
alarm.
those
Yeah, she's playing all this up there, but she has to do it. I told her that PT stands for personal torture.
At least I missed the national news on the last part of the day. I have pretty much stopped watching it.
I have one Fiji where I can just, just hit a button.
Then this time will tell as far as how much healing and movement we get to do.
One more week.
Okay, well, good. Glad she's coming along.
Me too.
That's not easy. The stuff they're using to clean these beers are just drying right now.
Yeah, but that one shouldn't be getting it at all. That one don't get sad.
Yeah. Do they alternate weeks?
It's been the same one since we started. That'd be too hard for Lori to figure out.
I think we should be using something different. I lost that guy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I think we can do that. Would it be better just to keep that one back and let Rick use the handheld?
I got the hand.
Right there. So just hang on to mine.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Hey, Ken, how you feeling?
Pass.
Really? Yeah.
Taking your trip from Hawaii.
Yeah, not as much.
I just replied to that.
Lately, kind of coupled up with that.
So did you have a beekeeper at all?
Working with Zion.
Low grade.
South Carolina.
I thought I had a home,
Really?
And he delivered yesterday.
but,
Christ,
just very fatigued. Sure, yeah. Happening,
Is that Wisconsin?
yeah, it is.
And,
That's Bob Parsons' point.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah, I thought so.
well, 24th is 10 days, so.
Sure. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
There's a connection there.
Yeah.
Well, glad you feel better. That's awesome. That worked out.
Probably get a few good beds and coffee or Rick or something.
Yeah, probably. I just got a hard lead from a church in Woodbury, Minnesota. He said the same.
Hey, Rick? You wanna just use that wireless mic there then, just pass it around? You wanna use just the wireless mic?
Yep, excuse
The
me.
handheld one? Yeah, well, plus we got people watching on the computer.
Okay.
So then the daughters kind of, the mics are picking up the variations, so people's responses are okay, but the people presenting should probably go down.
Okay.
So, yeah, if you guys are all good, I mean, if you wanted to like, maybe you wanna wipe it down. You got those bleach wipes, let me find those.
We should try using my gate one of these times.
What's my game?
Right there.
The other day.
Oh, yeah? We just fixed it.
Oh, really? So,
Yeah.
have we never used it? I don't know if you do that.
What do you think, Rick?
I don't know.
Just give it a shot. Let me see.
Yeah, these, we can just, like, you know,
Nobody at the next council meeting had our annual meeting canceled. We canceled it, just, we got a bunch of condo owners that are heating about getting together.
I get what's in that.
So, I will be.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I think we're very
Hey, Dave.
Testing, 1, 2, test. Testing. Testing, testing, 1, 2, testing. It's on. Yeah, maybe just turn it up a little bit, huh?
Let's see, I can get it to the thing.
Testing, testing, testing.
So you actually did test positive? What's that? Did you actually test positive? Sorry? Did you actually test positive? Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's, I woke up, okay. And, then for about a week,
Testing one. Oh yeah, that's plenty loud. Okay. I think we could just talk from right here. Is that all right.
I'll have my mic, so I guess, talk to them back, but I'm gonna be monitoring the comments of people that are joining us online.
Yeah, something like that. Something like that.
She gets that pretty often.
If I may, let me start out with the pastor's report. I'm part of the Bible. That was the verse of actions, dissension, what the lady was on. That would be the. And then I'll go back to that. And I guess I can come back to the resource. What's that?
If you haven't signed in, the sign-up sheets are on the front pew up here. Also grab a report if you haven't got a report yet. We'll get started in a minute. All right, it is 6:30, everybody. Do we have a Zoom audience? Okay. All right, welcome everybody. It's 6:30. Thanks for coming this evening. We call the meeting to order, and Pastor is going to lead us in an opening prayer.
Takes a little bit longer to get ready these days of peeling off of the mask and trying to do everything else. I'm going to open with a few devotional thoughts and then have our prayer. First of all, thanks for being here tonight. Despite some of the difficulties in gathering like this, we continue to carry on by God's grace, and also good to have close to a half a dozen people that are joining us virtually tonight. So good to have you with us as well, even though you can't be here in person. You know, one of the really good things, you usually don't hear it said this way, but one of the really good things about COVID is that you become better prayers and also better receivers of God's joy. Maybe that seems kind of counterintuitive. Maybe not the praying part, but the joyful part. But as we've done the Bible study on politics and also gone back in time with people like Daniel, somebody like him who realized that his earthly kingdom was coming to an end very horribly, yet his spiritual kingdom continued to prevail, even to gain the victories that God gave to it. You think of Daniel being uprooted from his city, having it destroyed, being taken away from his home, never to return, as far as we know, and then wondering what was going to happen to his religion as well, as temple worship was completely at an end. And yet he continued to will be done, and it was, as far as God's kingdom was concerned. In fact, God allowed him to be part of that preserving presence in God's spiritual kingdom, and even to make sure that they could have that return to the promised land, really a picture of heaven. And really, it's no different for us. There's a passage in James chapter 1. And we've been looking at that in our life groups. Consider it complete joy, pure joy, my brothers, whenever you fall into various kinds of trials, because you know by faith that the testing of your faith produces patient endurance. And let patient endurance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. And so that pure joy isn't this giddy happiness that things are great for me, especially in an earthly way all the time. But it's a joy that's cleansed of the sinfulness that says, I wish I didn't have to go through what I'm going through, or I wish things could be better in an earthly kind of way. It's growing beyond that and looking and seeing, knowing that God's victories continue to be carried out for you. So I suppose as we embrace for whatever the election brings us, or as we maybe drag ourselves through some more of the differences and difficulties of this time. Even I suppose as we wonder how are these trials going to impact negatively our spiritual kingdom, our church, we have those assurances from the Lord that we are going to persevere, that we are going to endure, that the victories of faith are going to continue for us. And so it's really an opportunity for us to pray that way, to pray for what God has already promised, and even for the joy that He says continues to be ours in spite of these trials. In fact, part of those prayers really are answered as we go back to the life of Jesus and see how they interface and impact our lives, of how His dying really has freed us from those sins that would keep us from celebrating those victories, of His rising from the dead, always giving us assurance that we are going to go on living through everything here in this world and finally live on into eternity. And that He, as our risen and ruling Lord, is actually ruling all things, especially for His church, so that even as we go through trials and tests of faith, we're going to be like Daniel. We are going to play a part in God's preserving our faith and the faith of His people, and as we are. And God is going to continue to use us to put other people on the path that finally is going to lead us all to heaven. So we pray that. We anticipate that. We gain the joy from that. Let's pray. Lord, be with us tonight as we meet in Your name and celebrate the victories of Your spiritual kingdom that we enjoy here at St. Matthew. Help us also to be aware of the trials, even the tests of our faith, in the challenges that lie outside as well as inside of our church. But then continue to allow us in faith and in trust, even to make those decisions that are going to continue to carry forward Your gospel ministry and Your victories of faith. We look forward to this again as we meet in Your name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. And hopefully everybody again has a copy of the reports from up front here. And it looks like we're going to try to have them on the screen as well and kind of follow along as we go, so that would help our Zoom people. And then if our Zoom people have questions, I guess they can let us know as well. So the agenda is found on page 3 there. We'll try to use that as our guide this evening. Moving down to item 3. And on to item 4, Worship Elders Report with Al Roll. Yeah.
Thanks, Rick. Okay, I think I'm on page 3? 5? 5, okay. All right. Just a couple of things to highlight with the church audio video equipment update. You know, as Pastor said, one of the blessings actually of COVID is that we've been able to increase our ability to stream our services and increase an audience there that I don't think we had before. And hopefully some people can benefit from that even into the future after we get more of them back in church again. I apologize also for some of the challenges we're still dealing with. We have most of the equipment back there now, but there are a lot of buttons back there, and it's we have to find all the right ones to make sure we stream clearly. And we're constantly working on that. This week was definitely another a lot of emails, I know, trying to clear up some issues we had yet. And I think, again, thank you so much to all the people that are involved with that. That's been quite an undertaking. We've also put a new TV down in the basement, a 65-inch HD TV. Hopefully someday we'll need that, that we have so many people that we have to put some overflow down there, and that they're willing to do that. Worship services during COVID. Our attendance for the quarter has been averaging about 119 per weekend, which is about the same as when we came back. The month of June, which is not included in this, also was about 120. So we haven't gone up and we haven't gone down yet since this all started back, since we've been coming back. Forward-looking vision, something that isn't in yours is a report that I got from Julie Zimmer, the Advent by Candlelight. Just a couple highlights there maybe, and you'll be getting more information on that, and the ladies of the congregation will too. But it's going to be COVID style. It's going to be in church. It'll focus on 5 little words, the Advent wreath. There will be readings and singing, but no food, no dessert. There will be limited seating, so they are expecting only St. Matthew members, and not sending out invitations other than to join us on Facebook, which would be kind of cool too, and maybe some families can get together and watch it there. Festival services, this is something we struggled with big time. When we get to the Christmas season, we've had 3 Christmas Eve services, we've had 2 in the Christmas Eve services in the past, and attendance at that service, or those 2 services, has approached 400 people for those 2 services. So to socially distance 400 people, we're going to add another service. We're going to have 3 services, and you'll hear more about that. The plan is to have them at 2, 5, and 7. Or 3, 5, and 7. Yep, I did put it in there. And then do some registering for it so that we can be assured of having some balance, hopefully. Let's see. The budget items there, generally doing pretty good there. The one that's over budget is multimedia supplies, or the big one is, thought there was one other one that was quite over, but it has to do with some of the things we're doing with the media in the back. And then again, just a big thank you to everyone who's assisting with worship, with 3 services each weekend. More volunteers have been needed, and we thank our Lord that there have been several people who have offered to serve. Properly run our. Any questions? Yes?
How well watched our videos or our live stream services? How many people are watching?
I do have that there actually, and on average it's about 150 per weekend. And that's views, that might be 2 or 3 people. And then YouTube, there are about 10 people that are 10 views, people that sign into that, and I'm sure that's more than one person many times. Yes?
Just one thing I read a story today, just so you kind of have some perspective. There's a new study came out. They surveyed 941 churches, and the average percent of normal attendance attending right percent. across 941 churches. So I think, I guess I only say that because while certainly we want to get as many people back in church as possible, we are doing pretty well compared to maybe the national average right now. So just something to, I think it's been nice to see how many people have turned out for worship.
So what was the average again, Pastor?
36%.
Okay, just a little more than a third.
Yeah.
And we're just a little under 2/3, so, of normal. So we're again, we've been very blessed to have the number of people that are able to be here. And I think part of it is that we are practicing some good guidelines that makes people feel comfortable. And that's, I think, the big thing right now. Anything else? Thank you. Who's next?
I'll stay here, and I have very little, if anything, new. Again, COVID has kind of tied our hands. I know one thing, I did talk to my sister, and she belongs to a church in St. Paul, and they have had no services whatsoever. As soon as we get the pandemic under control, the virus under control to some degree, where we can do something, whether it's in 3 months, 6 months, or a year from now, certainly one of the ideas I think I would like to see would be a Thanksgiving for not just our country, but for our church, and to the Lord for bringing us through this pandemic and keeping us safe and smart. Certainly we don't want to rush back to anything and help spread the pandemic. We have to do what we can to keep us safe and healthy, knowing that a lot of our members are elderly, and we don't want to push that too hard, although I think we're doing it pretty.
All right, thank you, Dave. Excuse me, John, you're going to touch on discipleship, and then you're going to go right into the thing we see on the road? Okay, great.
Evening. People can look at page 7, discipleship report. In September, we started our life groups again. We've got 3 groups going, 2 groups on Thursday evening, 1 group on Wednesday evening. We were averaging about 6 to 9 people in each group, and we're meeting either downstairs in the church basement or in room 108. And we're spread out pretty good, so it's been working pretty good. We've got good participation. I think as people start getting to know each other more, we're able to share a lot more. It's been a real joy. We're going to probably be finishing up just before Thanksgiving. We got an 8-week semester. After that, we're hoping to start up again in January, and again, depending on how COVID goes here, we'd like to see if we can get another group going, and we'll just see how that goes. So, but overall, you know, we're glad to be back, and I think everyone finds it very beneficial. Moving on, one thing we've talked about all this year, and with the COVID, it's kind of slowed us down a little bit, is to get a Veterans Bible Study program going. We're in the discussion phases of that, and we'd like to see if we can still meet sometime this 4th quarter and kind of organize a plan here for the coming year. Another thing we started back in January was a Connections Committee, which consisted of about 5 to 6 groups or teams, sometimes husband and wife teams, where we were contacting some of the folks that maybe haven't been at church as regular as they used to be. We have contacted 29 people. Some of them came back, and suddenly in March everything changed again. So we've kind of put that on the back burner for a while. Again, we'd like to see sometime in 2021 if we can get back into contacting some of these folks. A
couple other things happening. Of course, Women's Bible Study is back up and running in September. Teen Bible Study also in September. And Underground Sunday School again started in September. Forward-looking vision, as I was saying, we'd like to get more folks involved in life groups in 2021. Hopefully we can get something going on a Veterans Bible Study program sometime again in 2021. And also our Connections Committee, we'll see how things go, and we'd like to get in contact with more of the folks to get them back into the church. Anybody got any questions up to this point? Pat?
On the Veterans Bible Study, is there been some success in the wells contacting that group, or how would you propose to search out those people?
Within our church?
Well, I would think would be both within our church as well as perhaps exterior to the church?
Well, initially we'd like to get just within our church, Pat. But there's a group, a veterans group over on Richmond Avenue. Voight Insurance is in the same building. I've been trying to contact those folks. I'm a veteran also, and maybe we can expand with those folks. But initially, we'd like to see if we can get something going here with the veterans here within our church.
Maybe how many veterans we have as members?
You know, I don't. Thanks. Can I get the Gateways to Growth chart, Pastor? I think it's page 10. That's fine. I think everyone's got that in our folders, page 10. As you can see, we've met our goal for the roof fund, for the technology fund, and the worship audio equipment fund. And again, remember, we all started, I think this is sometime in November, so 11 months later, we've done a real good job. We've got 3 of these funds completed. The handicap ramp fund, we're over halfway to our goal of 20,000. The organ fund, we've got about 20,000 in that fund. We've got 47 to go. If there was a forward-looking vision we have for the Gateways to Growth, it would be to finish both of these funds in 2021. We also have, our church council has discussed to get the handicap ramp going sometime this spring. So we're going to be going out again, looking at the quotes we already have, see if there's any changes, and see if by April actually get that handicap ramp in construction out here. So that's all I have. Anybody have any questions? Pastor?
Maybe just to emphasize that point, our congregation has been very blessed monetarily, and then also our gifts for giving, in addition to keeping pace with our monetary budget or operational budget. We've had all these additional gifts this year too, so much thanks to our Lord.
Yeah. Anything else? That's it for me, Rick.
Evening, everyone. We were going to plan a welcome back to church function event, but that really didn't happen. So now we're sending out postcards, which are going to go out at the end of this month, and basically telling people, asking people to join us when they feel comfortable doing so. We did have a fall scavenger hunt. It was back on October 17th,
and it was mostly for our Sunday school families. Some of the little kids had a blast doing that. Grief Share is going on Saturdays. Our website is running, and we're live streaming, which you all know. Forward-looking vision, we have a welcome back to church event, which I mentioned, and when everything diminishes on the virus front, we will look to have that event, but who knows when it'll be.
Will there be music and dancing? Yes? Yes, all this?
No clue. No clue. They're probably going to be masks, though. One thing that wasn't on this, because we just had an outreach meeting last night, so it wasn't in this report. During our outreach meeting last night, we decided to have a drive-through Kids for Christmas event. Usually in December, we have a Kids for Christmas event. A lot of you have helped. This time around, it's going to be stay in your cars, drive in the parking lot. We'll give them some goodies and treats and stuff and the information on the church and when our services are for Christmas. And we're going to do it in 30-minute shifts. So we're going to try and move the cars in, park them, and one of the pastors will give a 10-minute speech, sermon, whatever, a devotion probably. And we'll try and broadcast that just through speakers and a microphone. And then those cars will go out, and the next shift will come in, and it's by registration only. But we're trying to do something for Christmas for kids. And again, this is new. We're working on it. So, and the last thing is we have Grief Share for the holidays, which we've had the last couple of years. That'll be on November 14th. Questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Jay. Pat?
Good evening. Just a couple of things to highlight on the report. The report I have is slightly different than the one that's on page 14, so a couple of slight little additions. The boiler room flooding, the broken valve issues that we had, that's been taken care of now, thanks to Energy Control. So they fixed all that along with what I hope most of the heating issues that we had. So all of those things should be taken care of. The church air conditioning for inside here has been shut down for the year, so that'll be ready to go in the spring. All the roof drains, with the exception of the gymnasium roof, have been inspected. I've spent more time on the roof on this church than I have in my own house. So I can tell you unequivocally that there are no leaks in any of the gutters in this facility. By the way, Al, the battery-operated leaf blower works great. So, we also repaired the heaters. We had some heating issues in the food pantry, which is the old classrooms. So that was taken care of. Some upcoming activities. We're still looking to install a ladder so that we can have easier access to the gymnasium. Right now we have to use a ladder and then another ladder to be able to get up there. So we'll look to try and get that installed in the spring of next year. I've been working on some wireless flood sensors. After inspection, I'm back to now I think we might be able to try some Wi-Fi based systems that will plug into outlets in some of the areas like the boiler rooms where the water mains are. And what they do is if they sense that there's a large amount of water, i.e. a leak, they will send a signal to folks on their cell phones so we don't run into a problem where we have a leak that runs all weekend and nobody finds it until Monday when Sue and the gang come in. So that's still on. I've been looking at getting some budgetary price quotes for the rental property. These are just budgetary quotes as to give the team some options to see if long-term, if we keep that rental property, or if we decide to, get out of the rental business, raise that property, and then build additional parking spaces. So this is just a budgetary price quote to see what that would cost, so that we have that for some decision-making. There has been some water damage lately, the front of the church, up on the top, so I've had a company come in to give us a budgetary quote for some of the brickwork on the face of the church. And I also have another company that's going to come in and give us a secondary price quote so that we can see what that would cost to repair. I'm also having a secondary price quote done on our bell tower. I don't know if anybody knows this, but our bell tower, it's getting up there in age, and it's got some issues to it. Issues that are going to need to be addressed probably sooner than later. So here's your trivia question for the week. How many people know how much weight is up in that bell tower? Anyone? 2,600 pounds worth of bells are up in that tower. So there's a lot of weight up on that foundation. So at some point we'll have to address that. And I think that pretty much covers all of the miscellaneous thing. It's an older building, so there's all types of different repairs that we do throughout the month. So most of them are pretty small, pretty minor, the types that you would find in any building this age. So overall, the building is in pretty good shape. So God willing, and the river doesn't rise, we don't have too many other things we have to repair. So does anybody have any questions? If not, thank you.
Good evening. First, I got to make a comment about Mike 8. I'm really glad to have that thing working again. I misadjusted it a while back. We got it working when Roger was here last time working on this, so I was quite pleased to have that going again today. Okay, so my report. First, before I'm going to mention something that I forgot to put in my report. The Budget Committee this year has finished its work, and as I'm going to be presenting the results of that to council, so we'll be ready the council will then call the voters meeting to debate the budget and hopefully approve it. But okay, so the COVID has not hurt us in contributions. Let's see, what can we look at? Oh, there we go. Okay, let's look at the first slide, I think. Well, this thing's loud, isn't it? All right, that's great. Is there a next slide there? Okay, we're over budget for contributions this year. So far this year, that's good news. I don't think I've reported that since I've been here. All right, next slide. Income for church. Okay, so our total income is up as well, and the third one is the expenses are in line, but that's the expenses is hiding a little bit, and I'll talk about that later. The shape of the expenses is not the same as the total number. Okay, I think I put an extra slide in here that I probably shouldn't have, but yeah. Okay, deficit. Okay, the deficit we always run a deficit for the first part of the year, and we get. The shape of giving is a little bit, we usually get more at Christmas time that makes up for it. So given the past patterns, we're on track for a surplus this year. Contributions, then the expenses number I'll talk about in a bit, but the shape of giving has changed. I think the next slide shows, this shows the total income that we've got for the year. I put the chart together. You can see the orange surpluses for the last summer months have more than made up for the March and April time frame. But the next slide shows something it's kind of new. The electronic giving is people give a have an automatic deduction from their checking account. That's way up this year, the red numbers. The purple numbers are people who give in advance, contribute once a year, and we divide it by 12 and include it in every month's income. There's only a few people, but I'm one of them. So that one is just another way that people give, and that you can see that that's amounting to about a third of our income now. It's that's a change from last year. Okay. Spending is probably not we budgeted for, and probably not what we'd like it to be. The properties are high. Almost everything else is lower than what expected. Well, administrative is a little bit higher, but everything is below. But we'd rather be spending money on worship and outreach than on properties. But we have to the church going. And finally, I should probably mention the PPP loan. I mentioned it last time, and I am not going to try and dodge it this time. But we're still in roughly the same status. We're expecting to have the loan forgiven and have a surplus at the end of the year. The plan is that should this become official, which we assume it will, the council will make a recommendation to the voters as to how to dispose of, how to spend that money, how we're going to do that. And so we're not ready to announce anything yet. I think that covers everything, right? Yeah. Are there any questions? Okay.
Jim, I just want to ask, I know the answer to the question, but I'll ask it so other people understand it. Is any of the PPP funds that we received reflected in the budget numbers that you were showing us?
No, they are not. The PPP numbers appear only on the balance sheet. Okay, they are a liability. Okay, they'll because we don't have we haven't received them as income. Okay. Yes, Pastor.
The figures that you mentioned being higher this year, does that include the monies that were used from the Gateways to Growth?
No, but it does include a lot of expenses at the duplex that hopefully won't occur again. I don't know. Okay. Yes.
A question on the givings being up. I know every year you grapple with what to predict, but is some of that real growth, or some of that just that it was better than you forecast? You know what I mean?
Okay. No. It's a good question. The question is whether the giving's actually up or if it's just beat my forecast. So I set a low bar to make it look good. But if I compare it to last year's, we are above last year by a little bit. I think, did I put that number in here? Yeah, well, total income I did. I guess I didn't put the offerings, but we are above last year. I don't remember the number, sorry. But actual dollars are up, yes. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it shows the total income, but that includes some other stuff that's out of our control. It includes the rental income from the duplex, but really it's the contributions are our main offerings, but offerings are up this year. Okay.
I have to kind of believe that some of it, at least in my case, is probably the fact that a lot of people have switched over to electronic giving. There's more consistency in their giving, you know. And I know in our case, a lot of times if we were on vacation, we'd come back and it's like, oh, we never caught up those couple of weeks, but now it's like automatic. And there's just a certain consistency that I think that's taking place now with some of those electronic numbers that we haven't always seen in the past, which has been really helpful for us. The other thing I think worth mentioning, Jim, is the fact that on our PPP loan, we did actually submit the paperwork for forgiveness now at this point. For a while, while there, the Bank of Little Chute was asking us to hold the next stimulus package, which was actually supposed to forgive all the loans under 150,000. Well, that's still up in the air, of course, but in the meantime, Bank of Little Chute has asked us to submit the paperwork, and we have done that. And again, as Jim had mentioned, it is to the amount of total forgiveness. So we shall see.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Master, Christie.
State the foundation.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had to get back to the page one and then I was
Waiting to be introduced.
Yeah. All right, Pat. Sorry.
Sorry, Pastor.
Thank you very much. And greetings to those on Zoom out there in the great internet world. Thank you for joining us as well. The foundation report, as shown on page 19, stands in front of you. It's been a pretty crazy year with the investments that the foundation has, as you could probably imagine, with what might happen to your own retirement accounts this past 12 months with the ups and downs. But our current balance at the end of the third quarter was just under $910,000, which I believe to be an all-time high for the balance of the foundation. The rate of return, this is kind of funny because now we cut off the foundation reports at the end of the third quarter, and when it comes to record keeping and keeping the allocation of dollars for the next year, for the 12 months ending September 30th, our rate of return was 13.06%, according to Wells. Pretty handsome rate of return. Generally, I think we're all very pleased that we've made the change from our previous investment company to the Wells Balance Fund, and they have delivered solid results. With that being said, it's a little complicated because we can only request money once a month. So we have kind of a cutoff for money. It's not like we could, in the previous days, kind of get a check within a week. But again, I think we're very pleased with that. The foundation is working with the council to get the rest of the matching dollars out of the foundation into the Gateways for Growth. We have kind of a mechanical process for that. And Al Kroll is watching the dollars on the foundation end to funnel and approve requests for payment. And I think we're there. It was a little complicated at first. Moving forward for 2021, based upon the returns, as we mentioned before, the Foundation Board has approved a 5% allocation for 2021. So we'll be bringing a total of $44,805 out of the foundation into various St. Matthew coffers. Ministry will get $19,000, evangelism, 82. Ken, I can get you the exact numbers here for your record keeping. Public ministry, 1,200. Operations just under 10,000, and FVL and Synod a little over 3,500. So those numbers are all well up from last year. Last year we did 4%. We were a little guarded, concerned about this year, and never would have, I guess, dreamt that we've gotten 13% the hard way with all the ups and downs. Going back to the report as it's shown on the handout, you'll see the balance, the protected balance, then the balances from second quarter, third quarter contributions and distributions. We made one distribution, which was a partial payment for the Gateways to Growth matching dollars based upon your offerings and paid bills. And then again, the final balance at the end of the third quarter. Again, just a reminder, the foundation wants to remind everyone that if if you're contemplating coming to the foundation for funding, you really need to go through the council and let your need be known. The procedure now is that the council will look at the budget for that particular area of ministry, and if the funds are not available or it's outside of what was budgeted, then they in turn will request that from the foundation. We've got a nice new paperwork trail there. The foundation board has begun meeting again. We took a little time off during the worst of the COVID crisis, but we've been holding a Zoom meeting. We just did one last week. It was a little choppy, but we got through it. And we will begin holding our next January meeting using Zoom as well. And finally, I want to just remind everyone on behalf of the foundation that we're certainly interested in growing the foundation. So if now or in the future, gifts is something that you're interested in bringing to the church, the foundation is a great way to do it as well. Certainly we need current offerings, probably should be the highest priority, but the foundation dollars is a great place to give bequests because as you've seen over the many years now, the original gift from Jack Ulbrich, what it has done to our ministry plan and others who have contributed since that time, but he had the most significant portion to start us off. Again, with our ability to bring $40,000 plus on a year like next year into the church for various ministry options. What a wonderful gift. So if you have any questions how that works, contact the pastors or myself and we can help you understand how that might play. Are there any questions? Pastor Milkey.
Thank you for your report, Pat. I actually have two questions, but before I jump to my questions, I'm going to tag along on what you just said. And that is, part of my work is to help people with their estate plans so that they can perhaps through their estate planning assist and provide funds for our endowment fund. So if you are interested in doing that, please contact me. I am more than happy to sit down with you and help you see if there's a way you can make your estate plan help that, if that is something that's of interest to you. So thank you for mentioning that.
Great.
A couple of questions. Number one, do you have the ability off the top of your head to determine how much we made compare as far as the percentage increase last year versus this year since we switched to the Wells investment?
On the rate of return?
The rate of return, and I know it's not apples to oranges because obviously the market changes, but I was just curious if you had that figure.
I don't have it with me. Jim has been tracking some.
I was tracking it for quite a while. I actually put the spreadsheet of all of our investments from Morgan Stanley in, and for the first, I think 9 months, we were a good 1.5%. Actually, it was like 2% ahead. I was only expecting 1.5%. We were 2% ahead of what we would have done with the exact same investments in Morgan Stanley. And you can say the market changes, but really it's the same market, and we don't have any evidence that they would have picked better stocks.
Yeah.
The evidence we have is that they would have done a worse job picking. So
I'm guessing it has to do with the fact that there's more invested in their larger fund with everybody else pooling their resources.
The biggest factor is expenses. Morgan Stanley charges 1% for the, and plus they put us in funds that were that had fees of half to 1%. Okay, whereas Wells Investments, we know what the total fees is. It's 0.3% or something like that. It's much lower. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's at least 1% better, and
Great to hear. Thank you.
The
The reason I asked that question is because in my work, a lot of churches ask about switching over, and I'd like to have that information in my quiver to be able to share with you. So thank you.
tell them to do it.
Do it? Okay. I'll tell them to call you. The second thing I wanted to ask was in regards to the public ministry school fund. I was wondering if that is, I know it is currently restricted to what is now Martin Luther College and Wisconsin Lutheran Seminary for students who go there. Is that flexible enough so that with congregational approval,
we could include a lay ministry school like Wisconsin Lutheran College for students who want to go to a WELS-affiliated school for other careers, perhaps not called workers. I'm just curious, because I've seen that in other churches where they
Okay.
support that as well, so.
Ken?
You'd have to change bylaws.
Would it?
It's
Yeah.
spelled out in the bylaws where that goes.
Because it is for people studying for the public ministry. Right, because it's for studying for the public ministry. Yeah. I'm not prepared to answer completely, but I believe we may have funding with one of the other funds, however. So I would say in case of that, you know, talk to somebody on the council in that particular area and we'll see. Don't quote me on that, but I'm just wondering.
I'm not looking
Yeah.
for myself, it's more for the benefit of families who are considering Wisconsin Lutheran College, because that to me would be a much better place for a student to go than, say, a public university. And if we can find a way to encourage that in some way,
Okay.
I would very much like to see that. And I don't know what the process would be to get that looked at and adjusted in the bylaws, if necessary, or if there's another way to do it. That would be a nice thing to publicize.
All right, we'll look into that. That's a good idea. I wanted to go back to your other question. I do have a little more historical just on the WELS funds. The 5-year average in the WELS balanced fund is 6.57%. Their 10-year is 8.33. Those are very handsome rates. From what I understand, I would think would compare very favorably to most other institutions. So, yes, Keith.
Yeah, with Morgan Stanley, I think we had a portion of money in just money markets, which was very low interest rates that we had, that we weren't getting out of return.
Right. We had some CDs and, you're right, and money market stuff. Because back in the day when we got real conservative, we could get 3-4% on some of that kind of stuff, and then that all just dried up. And so we can only check the balances once a month, which is the good news, bad news. So we don't have the anguish of watching it daily. But I think in general, we're very pleased with the fund we made. And again, the foundation, not to give it away, but the foundation is here to support the church, but certainly not to replace offerings that need to be first fruits. So if you have needs, think about coming to us. We have money, and we just soon put it to use in God's kingdom. Thank you for your time.
You pastors are going to take turns, and I'm going to start out on page 20 with the pastor's notes and highlights. I numbered the items there that might make it a little bit easier to follow along. I'd call your attention to points 2 and 3. We continue to try to stay in contact with as many of our members as possible, even though they're not attending, even by phone calls. And again, consistently send out 80 mailings with the sermons, in some cases bulletins, each week to the people who are desiring those sermons, many of which are not getting them, probably most of which are not getting them online. Point number 4 calls attention to the fact that out of the 50, mostly individuals, but there are a few households that are shut-ins. Probably over half of them right now cannot be visited again because of the COVID restrictions in those facilities. Every once in a while we're able to do like a FaceTime when they have the technology in some of those places. If you're able to work with a family member to get them on FaceTime or something like that, that might be even better than by phone, but we try to stay in contact with them by phone. Probably more often now that we're not able to see them. Going down to point number 5, 9 word events, if you count the life groups and then all the Bible studies that are going on at the different times that they are. And 5 of those being online. So there's the print there that in caps that the Word is arguably more available than ever at St. Matthew. I think that's probably true. And in conversations with people that we've had over the phone, many of them have been saying, yes, we've been able to stay in touch that way. I would encourage some, if not most of you, I think most of you have been at our Bible studies, is to encourage folks that you may know that maybe haven't recognized the opportunity that they have in front of them. Even in some cases, possibly to ask questions via Zoom, which is the case in some of those virtual sessions. Let's see. If you look on to the next page, page 21, some of the open opportunities to get involved. I'd go down there to the Hope Center outreach. The number of people that are coming there each month has increased as you would expect it to at a time like this. I think this last month, even close to 100 that were served, many of them being new people that have come. And we've actually had a number of people here in the congregation volunteer for that. If there's others that could volunteer their time, we're still in need of volunteers there during the week on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. We'll skip over the Pillars Resource Center report right now. I'll come back to that. The other thing that I would mention is if you go on to page 23, calling attention to some of the blessings that the Lord has given us in membership. We've had a couple of adult confirmations recently. Troy and Steve have joined us. We will vote in our voters' assembly those that are being transferred or released, I believe. And then we certainly give thanks for the infant son of the Hollies, Garrett, as well as the final victory in heaven that Shirley, Millie, and Ruth have realized by God's grace. So I'll pause there with my portion. If there's any questions, I can take those. Otherwise, Pastor Olson is on his way.
Okay, I just had a couple of things. Can you see if my mic is unmuted, John? See if that. I think it's good. Just a couple of things. First of all, our online worship and Bible study. I didn't know if you guys had any suggestions on ways to improve that. That's all brand new for us. So I know we've had some issues with sound, had some issues with kind of our stream. It seems like it's getting better every week, but we do still have some kinks to iron out, but that has become a pretty big part of our ministry. Didn't know if you had any suggestions on ways to improve it, whether we're talking about a Bible study side or the worship services themselves. Otherwise, I think you'll see the stream will be a little more reliable now that we have the new equipment in. There are still some kinks that are being ironed out, but I think it seems like it's improving as time goes on. So, but if you ever do have suggestions, let me know. This is all new to us, so how to interact with people from home is kind of a tough thing to know. And honestly, I can't stand watching myself, so I don't like looking at them. So it's hard to really be objective. So, Pat, yep.
Just a question. I understand there's probably certain members of our congregation who might want to use technology, either don't know how or don't have the equipment or can't afford it. Have you guys ever talked about a way that we might, as a congregation, sponsor technology, at least temporarily, to people who don't have it? I don't know how that would work or what it would cost.
Mm-hmm. We haven't talked about it, but it's not a bad idea. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. If we were to come across someone who wanted to do it, but couldn't afford a computer, or even just needed some training on how to work it, that would be a good. I know I've tried to help a couple folks, one successfully, another one unsuccessfully with it, but no, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Maybe
Sure.
That may be something you could do.
Yeah. No, that's a good idea. That's a good point. If you hear of anyone who would like to watch the services or the Bible studies but doesn't have a computer, yeah, I mean, I know we've got some members who do kind of refurbish older computers, and we could probably help some folks out. So that's a good, that's a very good idea. Anything else? Otherwise, the second thing I was mentioning to you is you've probably seen we have this thing called an identity study that keeps popping up. It's called Getting to Know Us. And I'll just, first of all, I want to explain what that is. I think over time, you've noticed St. Matthew's ministry has changed, and we have a lot of exciting things going on. Monday through Friday, we have so many people on our campus, between Pillars and between Hope Center. We're going to talk about the Lighthouse Youth Center. We're able to do outreach in a way that I don't think any other Wells congregation in the area is able to do it. And so it's really a neat thing, but I'm not sure that we've done a good job of involving our congregation in that. And so what we're going to do with that Getting to Know Us study is really a way for us to consider where we are now, not where we used to be or where we wish we were, but where we are right now, what some of the opportunities are in front of us as a congregation as well as our community, and then how we to address the ministry God of us and to do our very best with what we have. And so it'll be a neat study. I hope you join us for it. It's important to get a lot of congregational participation. That's why we keep putting it off. We were going to do it in March. We decided not to do it then, obviously, because we couldn't. We were going to do it a couple weeks ago, but then the COVID numbers went up. So COVID's killing us with this right now. But we're hoping that in 2021, we're going to be able to do that study. And what we hope it can accomplish is to help St. Matthew answer the question, who are the other congregations in the area? When you're talking to a friend who goes to Mount Olive or who goes to Emmanuel and they say, hey, what's going on at St. Matthew? We'd love to be able to help you answer that question, in a very succinct way that tells people kind of what we're here for and what we're here to do. And I think that'll help us take this considerable resources we have and reach a very populated part of town. I mean, I don't think we could have more people living around us in Appleton. So it's just a matter of just trying to streamline everything to accomplish that goal. So it'll be a 6-week study. It'll start with about 10 minutes of Pastor Kuski and I just introducing the concept we're going to be talking about, and then you're going to go into different small groups where you're going to discuss it. So some will go in the basement, some will go in room 108, some will go in the gym. We'll kind of spread out, have about 40 minutes to talk it over, and then we'll come back, and for about 10 minutes we'll just kind of wrap everything up. And we hope that through that we can come up with a very clear understanding of the unique gifts God's given us. So check that out whenever we're able to do it. I hope you'll give some thought to attending that. The other thing I wanted to mention to you is Lighthouse Youth Center, and maybe just you're wondering what in the world we're talking about this for. We were approached about possibly being one of the sites for a new Lighthouse Youth Center. Lighthouse Youth Center is a after-school program. Right now there are 3 locations in Milwaukee. It's Wells run. It's open Monday through Friday, 3 to 7. It's a free youth center for anyone in the community to attend. This is a Wells collective effort, so it's not funded by just one congregation. This is kind of like the Hope Center in that way. And it's an opportunity to reach a demographic that I think we really need to reach. I think, Rick, it was you who had shared with me a newspaper article that said right now the Boys and Girls Clubs are flooded with kids, but they don't have enough volunteers. They can't handle them all. And really, if you think of it, we have facilities that are absolutely perfect for that kind of a thing. We were built to be a school. And that's really what it serves, that kind of a purpose. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to give you an overview of what Lighthouse is. And I'd like you to think, how, whether or not this could be a neat thing for St. Matthew. We had just talked to Pastor Buskey, who's the director of it, a Wells pastor who's the director of it. He talked to our council about it. And we decided as a council it'd be good to study it and just kind of know what it would take exactly and how it could or couldn't work and what it would look like. But really an exciting ministry opportunity. That the idea is you draw from about a 10 to 12 block radius, and kids that are from 10 to 18 are welcome to come. And it's mostly middle school kids. So think kids about 12 to about 15 is kind of that's the biggest number of kids who attend. And you're really able to be a big part of their life at a very important time. So it's kind of a cool ministry. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to give you a rundown of what it is, just so you know, and then give it some thought. Lighthouse Youth Center is an after-school and summer program providing the communities they serve with a central location where youth can gather safely to receive support in all aspects of life. This is just off their website. The mission of Lighthouse is to be a beacon of hope to the youth in the economically distressed Haven Woods, Garden Homes, and Polonia communities of Northwest, Central, and South Milwaukee. So those are all 3 sites that are in Milwaukee. The proposition is that there would be 2 new ones opened, one in Appleton, one in Green Bay. And we were approached to see if possibly we'd be interested in hosting that. Here is what it looks like. It's very much community focused, so we'll talk a little bit about how they do their best to reach out to the community and try to be servants of the community, which is kind of a neat thing. Kind of an overview at Lighthouse, the youth will have a safe place to go after school for supervised educational and recreational activities. Participating youth will encourage loving and caring adults who serve as friends, mentors, and role models. Assistance will be available for homework assignments. The academic progress of each attendee will be tracked through communication with the student's teachers. Every youth who participates in our educational programs will graduate from high school and have the opportunity to attend college, enroll in a vocational school, or secure gainful employment. So as you think about that, what that means is they have their own program they'll put into place, that they will have directors, they will have staff that they will hire, and that they will then pay. And really St. Matthew's role would be to do our best to be there, to form a relationship with these kids, and hopefully to give them an opportunity to grow in their faith as members of our congregation. So they would do the hiring and firing for this, if you want to think about it that way. They would put their program into place, but we would be active participants working along with them. Families in the neighborhood will be strengthened by way of programs offered by Lighthouse that assist parents and guardians in parenting skills. Lighthouse will introduce both young adults from the community, problem-solving techniques that lead to socially acceptable resolutions. So they do a lot of workshops, like they'll have a guy come in and show them, show them some things about plumbing. They'll have a guy come in and show them things about finances. They'll have someone come in and do like a leadership course, those kinds of things. That just give the kids different things to think about. And they do that during the school year as well as during the summer, where they have different hours. Youth will develop a respectful and responsible attitude towards the area in which they live through regularly scheduled service projects that benefit the community at large. So they'll pick up trash along the roads and parks, painting over graffiti, as well as individuals raking lawns and washing windows for elderly and so on. So I don't know that there's a lot of graffiti in Appleton, but you can see how this would work in our area, how you'd have opportunities to serve in our community around us. It'll also provide youth with leadership opportunities that will prepare them for adulthood, and ultimately, because of Lighthouse, neighborhood youth will become involved, responsible members of society and improvement to their neighborhoods. So here's just kind of what it looks like. It's a community effort funded by Area Wells Congregation. So like I said, it wouldn't be on St. Matthew to fund this whole thing. I think they said beginning to end about $175,000 to run for a year. That certainly wouldn't be something St. Matthew's would have to do. That would be something that would be gathered from the greater area, and they've done this in Milwaukee, and so they would be doing that kind of fundraising around here for that. It's a free youth center for all ages, 10 to 18, so absolutely free. No one pays a dime to be a part of it. And then Monday through Friday, 3 to 7. In the summer, they have extended hours. So figure, they say 50 weeks a year of programming. So you can figure pretty much all year round, there'll be something going on with the youth in the area. What it looks like, here's kind of what they offer. So if you show up, they have a Bible study every night, Old and New Testament Bible study. So kind of think like your Bible history course when you were in grade school. Kind of something similar to that, but more geared toward teens, so more like a teen study or teen approach to that. Daily devotions, so there'll be a devotion at some point. There's always a 45-minute study hall, so kids are required to bring their homework in. And then that would be an opportunity for service. Maybe a member of St. Matthew would volunteer to spend a night just helping kids with their homework for their 45-minute study hall. There's classes, so people come in and do classes on computers, art, culture, all that kind of stuff. There's a computer lab, so they always set up at least 6 computers. That's a computer lab the kids could use if they don't have access to that. Service projects, we talked about that. They would have job preparedness and partnerships. So, you imagine a local welder might come in and just kind of show them some of the opportunities of getting into being a welder, that kind of a thing. So you'll have those kind of workshops going on. Finance classes, field trips and fun trips, safe place to hang out, and then just caring Christ-centered volunteers. Once again, if you look at their staff, I think a lot of the guys that are serving, I went to school with at one point at MLC and then at seminary. So they have a lot of, they hire people, Wells people that can share the gospel with these kids. And they do a very, he was telling me how most of their volunteers will pick kids up for church on Sundays and bring them so they can come to church, give them a ride there and bring them back, that kind of stuff. So there's an active attempt from the staff to really involve these kids in a church so they can continue to grow in their faith. So kind of a cool thing they do there. This is like a general, so this is this week what's going on. It's probably hard to see, but just kind of give you on Monday at the Haven Woods one, they had 2 to 6:30, they had an educational day. Garden Homes had the same thing. On Tuesday, they had a nutrition class, girls leadership. You got to see their schedule there. If you go to their website or their Facebook page, you can see how that works. Just got different stuff going on. So during that 3 to 7, they keep the kids engaged and make sure they are able to learn. So, the last part here is just a couple pictures. This is when a plumber came and showed them kind of some things about that trade. Here are some pictures of just some fun they took. There's bowling down there, and they had like a Halloween party and that kind of stuff. Here's some field trips. They went and met the mayor of Milwaukee. They're at the WLC football game on top, and they're at the Milwaukee Art Museum down there in the bottom. Whoops. And then here's just some of their community service. You see on the left, they did a youth barbecue and resource fair for the community. On the right, they grew some flowers in a garden, and so they took them to some of the seniors in the area, and that's a picture of one of the kids delivering the flowers to the seniors in the area. So just kind of gives you a picture of some of the stuff they do as they try to reach out. So just a couple things I think we talked about more. Any questions on it? Yep.
Space, so you're using the gym, and how would that coexist on campus with what else we've got going on?
That's what we'd have to study. So they had, if you look at their, they have like a form you fill out to apply to be a possible host site. And they have certain square footage that they ask for. I think, if we just used our gym and then, you figure where the underground area is, that would give us plenty of space. Maybe a committee would say, you know what, we've got those 2 classrooms that are used for the food pantry right now. Maybe that would be a better use of that space. Food pantry doesn't give us a lot of ministry opportunity. Maybe we would say, you know what, we'd like to transition the food pantry out. We could, I guess my point is a committee would have to study how we'd use our space. But I think we've got, if you figure underground and then you figure those where the food pantry is, that would be more space than they require. We'd have to talk about what we'd like to prioritize as we do that. Yep.
How many kids are you said a 10 to 12 block radius?
Yep.
Like a 1 mile radius
Mm-hmm.
around church?
Yeah, they figure a 10, anyone can come, but they figure a 10 to 12 extra walk, right? So, and also figure it's going to be coming from school. So figure a lot of kids from Wilson, Jefferson, that would be who would be mostly pulling from. I think the different ministry centers, they have different numbers because they've been operational for different amounts of time. But it sounds like, 40, 50 kids will be in and out in a given day at the first site, if I understand correctly. So that sounds like that's a fairly a good representation of the number of kids they'll serve at a time. So I'll figure like 40 kids, something in there. But don't, the numbers, that is something we'd have to, that's just something I saw on their website, so no one told me that. So that'd be something a committee would have to study, how many kids we talking about. I'll say that the Green location is ahead of us. It started with them, and then the pastor there, he had Pastor's Afros. He's in Swamico. He had contacted me and asked if we might possibly be interested in that. So we're kind of a little behind the game that way. That being said, you know, we have the facility for it. He's looking at renting a facility to host this. So in some ways, we're way ahead, if you think about it that way. So I think we got time. I don't get the impression we got to get this done in the next. I think they understand. Even if we were all raring to go, I think you'd still be looking at about a 12-month window to get her going. Any other thoughts on it? Well, if you'd like to be a part of studying it, let me know. I think there's a lot of opportunity here. You think all those kids you're going to have a chance to make connections with. I think it could be a neat way to infuse St. Matthew with some youth, which would be a fun thing to be able to serve those kids. I think we've got a facility that's made for this. I don't think you could be in a better location in Appleton to do it. You know, we are a block and a half from Wilson Middle School. I don't know how much closer a church has to get. But before that's what you draw from. I mean, we are in a great spot for it. So I think there's a lot of opportunity, but a lot of work to be done. We got to think about how this would interact with Hope Center and Pillars and what this would look like. So give it some thought and let me know if you'd like to be a part of talking about that. So thanks, guys.
Before I get to the Resource Center report, I might just backtrack, starting on page 24, and call attention to the fact that if you're looking at some of the averages that we've had in our Bible studies and Sunday school, that's actually been going on virtually. Then also on page 23 and 22, there's some statistics on pastoral calls. Pastor Geiger is still serving us. You don't see him too much on weekends because he's actually serving part-time in a vacancy down in Amro, down there on weekends and doing their services. But during the week, he still continues to be in contact with, and at least up until recently, making visits on a lot of our shut-ins. One of the interesting things about this time is you wouldn't think that you'd have the opportunity of doing a lot of outreach calls on prospective members, on prospective disciples, but with the number of people that have come to us at the Hope Center, and then also the number of people that we continue to serve through the Hope Center and through Pillars, there's really a significant number. And that kind of brings me to the Pillars Resource Center update, bottom of page 21. Point number 16 there calls attention to the fact that there are 22 clients now that are being assisted and contacted through the Hope Center. Those primarily are folks that had housing finally made available to them through their work with Pillars. And then there's a packet that they get from the Hope Center. We have a chance to sit down with them as pastors and also the Hope Center folks and continue to build that relationship. If we hadn't had one with them before that, we certainly have one at that point. And so a lot of these folks that are actually now not transitioning or very transient, that are hard to follow up with, some of these individuals who have really come a long way in their lives and becoming more stable now also have the opportunity of having the Lord be more a part of that. So some great opportunities there with really the Hope Center and the Pillars Resource Center, in a sense, teaming up in ways that I guess we never really imagined, but the Lord has opened those doors, and then with the pastors being a part of that, that certainly has given us some opportunities to continue to disciple. It's mentioned there, point number 17, that the stepping stones, that Bible study, counseling session that we have with some of the folks in the Resource Center up until they closed down temporarily. We had opened that up again, and even some of the folks that we had last year have shown interest in coming back to that. So that's mainly being undertaken right now by Pastor Olson. And then points number 18 and 19 are some expanded services that are being offered the Resource Center, at least before, or actually I I guess, probably starting once they open up again, probably mid-November. That would be number 18 mentions a virtual medical cart. They're hoping to use an area, kind of that back hallway off of the gym, to put up a curtain there or a divider to have that private area where they can actually use a computer for checkups on some of the folks virtually by medical people at whatever facility that they're at. They're doing that in nursing facilities these days, so why not in the resource center as well? And allowing some of these people that sometimes don't have the opportunity of even being examined until it becomes quite critical for them, hopefully, to get a jump on some of the health issues that they have so that they are treated more quickly. And then the addiction counseling, there's actually been a group of, I think 5 or 6 on a pretty regular basis who have actually been seeking out the services of one of the trained professionals in the resource center. So they've been gathering on a pretty regular basis, which has made it difficult because when you get a group like that discussing some of the private things that they have to share and to talk about, where do you go for that? So what they proposed to us, council just considered a couple of the staff members relocate in a couple of small storage areas, offices, whatever you want to call them, down in the basement of the gym, and to use those just for staff purposes. And that allows that central room where the offices are now for much of the staff to be used for some of those counseling classes and also private sessions with some of the clients. So some of them are not being utilized. We're offering, at least for the time being, to those folks at Pillars so that they can continue to provide the care that they want to care or they want to provide for their clients. Questions, comments?
Next on is gateways for growth, and John, you already touched on that, so we're good with that. So there's nothing else on our agenda. Nothing else on our agenda. Are there any other items that anybody wants to bring up or discuss? Otherwise, we can close the forum, and we will call the voters' meeting to order. Okay. First thing on the agenda there is to approve the minutes of August 4th. You can find those on page 27. Did anybody have any questions or comments related to those minutes? If not, I would entertain a motion from somebody to...
I move we accept the minutes.
Second. All right, we've got a motion, we've got a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right. Next on the agenda there is then to vote to accept the financial reports as presented by Jim. Motion, have a second. Any questions, last minute questions for Jim? Otherwise, all in favor? Aye. Okay. We do have one membership action, I believe, that needs to be taken care of. I want to say it was a transfer of Dennis Schmaltz. Not sure what page it is on. That's page 23.
There might be a couple of there, Rick. Both transfer as well as the release. I think you do both of those.
No, you only vote on release. Transfers were done by the council.
Okay. Never keep track of that.
I can't either, that's why I was...
Thanks, Ken.
All right, so then I would entertain a motion from somebody. to release Dennis? Okay, we've got a motion, got a second. All those in favor? Aye. And last but not least, I guess last but not least is a motion to adjourn. Have we got a motion, got a second? All in favor? All right. And close with the prayer, blessing?
Lord, we thank you for all the blessings that you've given St. Matthew, all the opportunities that you placed before us. As we find ourselves in a difficult time with COVID and seeing a church that's more active than we're used to, help us also to see all the ways you blessed us, from our material blessings to new people joining our congregation, to new opportunities on the horizon. Fill us with thankfulness for your great goodness to us in this difficult time. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Make sure if you haven't signed the sheets up front here that you please do sign them before you take off.